All right, so continuation from the last lesson. All right, so this is 5.1 section, second day, nth roots, rational exponents. So hopefully you recognize, all right, you recognize these things. Remember, if n is odd, n is even. All right, remember how many answers you're gonna have. One real answer, two real answers. All right, so just make sure you remember this. All right, because it will come back again today. And I left this up here so that you remember where n is. All right, you remember where n is at all times. You remember where a is because we are going to go back and forth converting. All right, so yesterday we were just doing calculator work and just evaluating. I wanted you to get comfortable evaluating. Now today we're actually going to be solving these equations. All right, so now you're going to solve just like you've always solved before. All right, now a couple of things I do want to remind you of. What's being raised to the third power? All right, what's being raised to the third power? Only the x is being raised to the third power. Remember, I keep telling you guys, people in math are lazy. If there's no exponent, it's always understood to be one. All right, so I hope you know that that 8 is not being raised to the third power. All right, so when we solve, we want to get everything. We want to get rid of everything that's not being raised to an exponent. So in this case, I'm going to divide both sides by 8. All right. So I'm left with x to the third. I don't know why that looks so funny. Me. All right. So I'm left with x to the third is equal to 64 divided by 8 gives me 8. Now, I need to be able to get rid of that third power. How do I undo that third power? So if you think about it, all right. So just for a quick review, if something's raised to the second power, remember what we could do? We can take the square root of it, because when we take the square root, remember there's actually a 2 sitting there. In that index, there's a 2. So these 2's kind of cancel each other out, and this would be equal to x. Another way, another way that we can get rid of that exponent of 2 is raise it to the 1/2 power. You notice all I did was I just took the reciprocal. All right, I just took the reciprocal of that, because what's the reciprocal? I mean, what's 2? I can think about 2 as 2 over 1. The reciprocal is 1/2. And what happens when you have a power to a power? All right, you guys remember, when you have a power raised to a power, we're going to multiply. So 2 times 1/2 just gives me 1. So I have x to the first. That's our whole goal, is to get rid of those exponents. All right. So I went back to something that you guys hopefully remembered. All right. So you go back to something you remembered. Now, there's two ways, just like I showed you. How do I get rid of that the third power on x? Well, one way is I can take the third root of x to the third. That's one way. All right. So then what happens is that those threes will cancel each other out, and I would be left with x by itself. All right. So if I did that to the left side, I would have to do that to the right side. I remember um, the last lesson I showed you how to type this into your calculator. Or another way to think about it is, you have this x to the third power is equal to 8. What you can do is you can raise both of those to the 1/3 power. All right. So do I care which way you pick? No, I don't care which way you pick. Whichever's easiest for you. All I'm trying to do is just get the x by itself. All right. In both of these cases, x will end up by itself. So we'll end up with, like we said, we'll end up with x by itself. But we can't forget, how many answers are we going to have? All right. So we have to figure out, where is n? And remember, where is n? N is either the index or it's going to be the denominator. Well, what happens? There it is. Or, I need to pick a different color. Or right there. Well, in any case, n is odd. So how many answers am I going to have? N is odd. All right. N is odd. So I know I'm going to have one real answer. You have to make sure you remember this. All right. So the third root of 8, or 8 to the 1/3 power, is equal to 2. All right. And you're done. That's all you have to do. Now let's look at this one. I have 1/2 of x to the 5th. Well, how do I get rid of that 1/2? Let me multiply both sides by 2. All right, multiply both sides by 2, because what happens? Those 2's cancel each other out, and I'm left with x to the 5th is equal to 1024. Now, how do I get rid of x to the 5th? Your choice. I don't care. I don't care which one of this. I don't care if you do it this way or this way. All right, your choice. You pick one. Again, I'll do it both ways. I'll show you both ways. All right, so I can do the 5th root of x to the 5th is equal to 1024, or I can do x to the 5th raised to the 1/5 power. All right, and if you do that, then you have to remember you're going to do it to both sides. Okay, in this case, n is odd again. N is odd again. All right, so make sure, oh, I forgot to do it over here. Right? Horrible math teacher, I'm forgetting to show the steps. Okay, so what happens? I end up with x is equal to, since n is odd, right? N is odd again. I know I'm going to have, just like this problem over here, I know I'm just going to have one answer. So grab your calculator, you plug in, you can plug in this problem, or you could plug that in on your calculator, whichever way you're comfortable. Well, I don't care how you do it, you're going to get x is equal to 4 for both of those. X equals 4 for both. All right. Now let's look at C. In C, you notice that x plus 5, that whole thing is being raised to the 4th power. So right away I have to get rid of that 4th power, because I can't do anything with that x or that 5, because both of them are being raised to the 4th power. So again, how do I get rid of something being raised to the 4th power? I can either take the 4th root, all right, do it to both sides, or you can do where you do the exponent, all right. So I'll do this one this way. So I know that those 4's are going to cancel. What am I left with? Oh, I don't need the parenthesis anymore. I'm going to be left with x plus 5 is equal to, now here's n, all right, n is equal to 4. Well, n is even, all right, so it's going to be one of those. N is even, but what is a? N is 4. A is, come on, a is positive. A is positive. So I know I'm going to have two answers. So make sure you put the plus and the minus. All right. This is why it was important to make sure you learn that. So I'm going to have plus and minus. So when I do the 4th root of 16, I end up with plus or minus 2. Now what do I do here? I subtract 5 from both sides. All right. Subtract 5. So I'm going to be left with x is equal to -5 plus or minus 2. Well, what does that really mean? All this means is x is equal to -5 plus 2, and x is equal to -5 minus 2. So you're going to have two answers. So -5 plus 2 gives me -3. -5 minus 2 gives me -7. Okay? Now you look over here, this last one. It's being raised to the 3rd power. So let's do it this way this time. I can raise that to the 1/3 power. Because remember what happens when I have a power raised to a power? I multiply. 3 times 1/3 gives me 1. So so that exponent goes away. So x minus 2 is equal to, well, n is odd. So I think we've done enough of those. N is odd. There's only going to be one answer. So negative 14 to the 1/3 power. I should have said this is approximately equal to negative 2.41. All right. Now grab your calculators. Please make sure you can do that. All right. So hopefully you were able to get that negative 2.41. Now what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to add 2 to both sides. All right. So I have x is approximately equal to, negative 0.41. And we're done. Hopefully it's not too bad. All right, so now we have some rate of inflation or depreciation word problems. All right, so all the inflation or depreciation, all that means is inflation is price increases. All right, so the price of something increases. So a car increases. Depreciation, it price decreases. All right, so prices of cars, once you buy it, they depreciate, they lose value. Inflation, you buy something and it's worth more money later. So like sometimes houses, we could say in the price increases. So we're going to be looking for rate of inflation or depreciation. All right, so here's two formulas. They're very similar, but just inflation, price goes up, so the higher cost is going to be on top, and you're going to subtract 1 at the end. Depreciation, the higher cost is at the bottom, and you're going to do 1 minus that, okay? And then what we end up with is 1 over the number of years, all right? 1 over the number of years. It's the same thing for both. All right, so let's look at this first one. The value of a school bus reduces from $512,000 to $343,000 in 3 years. All right, so brand new, it cost 512,000. After 3 years, it's only worth 343,000. All right, so this one is going to be depreciation. All right, so we're looking for the rate. So we're going to say R is equal to, grab your calculators. All I'm doing here is I'm just setting it up for 512,000 over 343,000. And then it's going to be raised to the 1 over, they told me 3 years, so to the 1/3 power, minus 1. All right, so now plugging this in. If you need help plugging this in, parentheses, 512,000 divided by 343,000. Close the parentheses. Use the caret key. And then you're going to hit 1, the ABC button, 3. Hit equal. All right, just stop right there, hit equal. All right, is everybody good? All right, so oh, what did I screw up? Anybody knows what I screwed up? This was depreciation. It was depreciation. I screwed it up right away. It should have been R is equal to 1 minus. All right, sorry, I wasn't paying attention. All right, so depreciation. So once you get your answer here, all right, once you've plugged this into your calculator and get your answer, then remember you can do on your calculator, you can do 1 minus the previous answer. All right, so to get that previous answer, and I've showed you guys this before, you're going to hit second. All right, so the key all the way up on top, and then you're going to hit the negative key. You'll see ANS above it. That's the previous answer. So here, when you get this on your calculator, it's 0.125. Okay? But now we want this to be a percentage. And remember, how do you do percentage? You're moving the decimal to the right 3 places. So what does this end up being? This ends up being 12.5%. Okay? And again, I apologize. Hopefully you guys caught my mistake. This was depreciation. So it should have been 1 minus. All right? Holy cow, I screwed this whole thing up. What was the other thing I screwed up? Man, oh man, I was looking at the wrong formula. Man. See, in class, you guys would have stopped me. Depreciation, it should have been the lower cost. So 343,000, 512,000. Yeah. I know. Shut up. I'm a moron. All right. I know I'm not that smart. Man, I can't believe I screwed that up. I apologize, guys. All right. So you got the idea. All right. Hopefully I don't screw this one up. All right. Part B. So I looked these numbers up, and these were just numbers on average. So in 1930, bread sold for 12 cents a loaf and milk sold for 26 cents per gallon. In the year 2000, bread sold for, and again, these were on average. I just Googled these, these numbers. In 2000, bread sold for 92 cents a loaf and milk sold for $2.78 per gallon. Find the rate of annual inflation for both items. All right. So for the first one, let's do the rate for the bread. All right, let's do the rate for the bread. Since this is inflation, hopefully I don't screw this up. Inflation, all right, higher cost up on top. So the higher cost for bread, the higher cost 92 cents, the lower cost 12 cents. These are both for loaves of bread. All right, so again, just double checking. I don't want to screw this up. Higher cost, right? Because now I do not have these formulas memorized. So the higher cost, 0.92, lower cost, 0.12, raised to and how many years is it from 1930 to the year 2000? Is 70 years. All right. And I do minus 1. Okay. Grab your calculator. All right. So the rate for the bread, the rate of inflation for bread, is approximately 0.0295. So again, multiply by 100 or just move the decimal place. So the rate for the bread, the rate of inflation, is approximately 2.95%. All right, now let's do the inflation for milk. So the rate for milk, again, the higher cost over the lower cost. So 2.78 over 0.26. And again, the year is still 70, so it's still 1 over 70 minus 1. That whole thing minus 1. So the rate for milk, right, the rate of inflation for milk is approximately, I ended up with 0.0344. And now when I move that decimal 2 places, I end up with 3.44%. All right. And I hope I didn't screw you guys up. Please make sure you guys caught my mistake here. All right. Please make sure you guys caught my mistake. If we'd have been in class, you guys would have been yelling at me. All right. So remember, just depreciation. Depreciation is that one right there. All right. So it should have been 1 minus the lower cost over the higher cost. I totally screwed that up at first. I went back and fixed it, but I screwed that up. This number here should have been in front. That number should be in back. Okay. Well, if I screwed you up too much, hopefully you'll ask questions.